What is a meme coin? What does it have to do with Hawk Tuah? And how did a tree from 1792 get us to where we are today? Hi, my name's Chris Pappas. I'm the host of the podcast, Let's Process This, where we look back at the headlines, topics, and trends from 6 months ago and ask ourselves the question, does any of this still matter? Thanks for tuning into the channel or listening on your chosen podcast platform. If you're new here, do us a big favor and go ahead and give us a like and a subscribe. Today we've got a mini-sode. I'm going to be doing a solo deep dive into a topic that we've covered on the podcast before, or it might just be something simply that I'm interested in exploring more. Today we're going to be taking a 10,000 foot view of meme coins. Who is she? What's her story? On December 27, 2024, my guest Julia Whitehouse made a bold prediction about Haley Welch, aka Hawk Tuah Girl. Roll the clip.
Not going to be 5 or 10 years of a career, David. This girl, it's maybe a year.
Hey, let's
At the end of the day, I'm so generous for her having her time. I want to give her time, but unfortunately for her, none of this lasts.
And hoo boy, was she right. But what does this have to do with meme coins? Let's start with a little context for who Haley is and her viral moment. On July 11th, 2024, Haley Welch was interviewed on the streets of Nashville by Tim and DTV, where she said this.
Crazy every time.
Oh, you gotta give him that Hawk Tuah and spit on that thing, you get me?
And just like that, she blew up on the internet. And my guest Julia summed it up pretty perfectly.
She is young, blonde. We make a lot of space for young, white, blonde girls.
And she wasn't wrong. Let's take a look at the timeline of what happened after the viral moment. June of 2024, country star Zach Bryan brings Welch up on stage. July of 2024, she launches her own merch line with the Hawk Tuah slogan. September of 2024, her podcast Talk Tuah debuts. And then in December of 2024, she releases Hawk Tuah coin, a meme coin, a cryptocurrency. And here's where things really start falling apart. Before we get into what happened with the Hawk Tuah meme coin launch, let's hold for a moment and ask ourselves the question, what is a meme coin? Things are about to get very technical here for the next 60 seconds or so, and then after that I am going to explain how the tree from 1792 got us here. I promise, the tree is coming. First, what are cryptocurrencies? Cryptocurrencies are digital assets or currencies that exist only online. So they don't rely on banks and they use what's called blockchain technology to record these transactions. The blockchain is a digital ledger, a secure public place where every transaction is recorded. And this is done across many computers so that no one single person controls it. And generally they are unregulated. So what is a meme coin? A meme coin is a type of cryptocurrency that is based on a viral moment or trend. Think Dogecoin, Hawk Coin, and a couple of more coins we're going to get to later. So all meme coins are cryptocurrencies, but not all cryptocurrencies are meme coins. But where do meme coins actually come from? Okay, so unlike major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, anyone can create a meme coin. Something that I learned while researching this episode is that Bitcoin actually has a limit of how many coins can exist at any time. 21 million coins to be exact. And that might sound like a lot, but when you spread that across the entire human population, 21 million is not all that much. And why is that important? It's important because something is only worth what people are willing to pay. And this is where it starts getting difficult, not trying to sound like a stoned college sophomore when you're talking about all this. Because you might say, Chris, that's silly that this digital thing is worth anything just because people are willing to pay for it. And it's like, well, it's kind of the same reason why humans dig into the earth and we decide that the shiny rocks are worth more than the dull rocks. It's not the value in the object itself, it's the value that we project onto the object. And right now, enough people believe in crypto for it to matter. Back to where meme coins actually come from. So meme coins are built on top of existing blockchain platforms using what are called smart contracts. And you can think of a smart contract like a digital vending machine. So here in the real world, where we still have vending machines, we will go to a vending machine, I will put the money in, and once the correct amount of money is put into the machine then executes an action of giving me a snack. No human approval needed. All right, let's review what meme coins actually are. So meme coins are not Bitcoins. They can be created by anyone and in any amount. They run on pre-existing blockchains, so they don't have their own. And they also run on smart contracts, which are these automatic programs that handle transactions instantly. At this point, you're probably thinking one of two things. First, Chris, I don't actually care where meme coins come from. I want to know what they're used for and good for. Great question. And the second question you're probably thinking is, what about that tree from 1792? And that is the greatest question. Do meme coins have any real-world use? No, not really. They're more like digital trading cards that are based on viral moments. The prices are purely driven by online hype and speculation, and this leads to massive spikes and massive crashes. Honestly, the best use they have is selling them off before that hype dies down. Because at the end of the day, what we are talking about is a digital coin whose worth is only what people are willing to believe in it. It's like the digital version of Clap, if you believe in fairies.
Believe in fairies? Darling, I know dozens of them, but that's another story.
So this brings us back to the Hawk coin. Now, when the Hawk coin debuted in December of 2024, its market valuation skyrocketed to an impressive $490 million before a brutal crash of 95%. This would seem as if the Hawk coin was what we call a classic pump and dump. But in order for something to be a classic, it has to come from somewhere. That's right, we're heading back to 1792. May 17th, 1792. 24 stockbrokers and merchants meet under a Buttonwood Tree on Wall Street. See, I told you that tree would come back. These 24 men signed what would become known as the Buttonwood Agreement. The Buttonwood Agreement laid down the foundations of what would become the New York Stock Exchange. What this agreement did was it laid out standardized trading rules, fixed commission rates, and ensured that brokers would only trade with each other, thus creating a more controlled and regulated market. Now, let's jump ahead to 1929. Jazz, prohibition, and a largely unregulated stock market. Big banks and millionaires, not billionaires back then because that would be crazy, would manipulate the markets through these pump and dump schemes. These millionaires and banks would pump or artificially inflate the stock price through hype and exaggeration. And then, once the price soared, they would dump their shares for a profit, leading the stock to crash and leaving the other investors at a loss. Remember this from literally moments ago? Now, when the Hawk coin debuted in December of 2024, its market valuation skyrocketed to an impressive $490 million before a brutal crash of 95%. It was schemes like pump and dumps that led to the stock market crash of 1929 and dropped America straight into the Great Depression. In the 1930s, the federal government would step in a big way to start regulating the stock market. So in 1933, Congress passed what was called the Securities Act. This required companies to give investors detailed information that they needed to know before buying stocks. This would include things like detailed financial reports, reports on earnings, assets, debts, potential business risks, all things that would help to prevent fraud and ensure transparency. A year later, in 1934, Congress passed the Securities Exchange Act. This gave the government long-term power to oversee the stock market. This would hopefully help to prevent fraud and crashes in the future. And over the past century, we have strengthened and weakened these laws to varying degrees of success. Now, fast forward to today. And crypto is the Wild West. No oversight, no regulation, and we're starting to see the same kind of pump and dump schemes play out. Crypto introduced a new form of decentralized and deregulated investing, and while the players may have changed, the schemes remain the same. People of influence will continue to work behind the scenes with insiders to create the same pump and dump schemes that we saw in the 1920s. Making money, building wealth, achieving stability, these are all universal goals, but the reality is far from simple. Many face crushing student loans, medical debt, skyrocketing rent, and this makes them vulnerable to financial schemes. This is where government oversight will be crucial to protect people from these predatory scams. And while every investment will have an inherent risk, the truth is that for many of us, our future will be tied to the stock market. And that's why financial literacy is going to be more important than ever. After all, if the average American heard from, let's say, the President of the United States and the First Lady that they had created their own meme coins and it was a perfectly safe form of investment, why would they have any reason to doubt that? And that's exactly what happened. The President of the United States and the First Lady launched their own meme coins, which have lost 50% and 97% of their value respectively since their launch in January of 2025. Now, just like the meme coin market, I'm speculating. But if the most powerful family in the world is investing in something this risky, it's worth asking questions. After all, there's nothing more Americans love than just asking questions. Here's a great question. What happened to Haley Welch after her meme coin dropped? She hasn't had an episode of her podcast since early December 2024. With this minisode, I hope to connect the financial risks of the 1920s to today. While history tends to repeat itself, we have the power to break those cycles through awareness and informed decision-making. By asking the right questions and taking smart, strategic steps, we can build a more secure financial future without falling for the same old traps. That's it for this mini episode of Let's Process This. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like, rate, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Leave a comment. Tell us if you've ever invested in a meme coin. And if you're into deep dives into the headlines, topics, and trends of the recent and not so recent past, stay tuned. There is plenty more to come.